Ready, go!
Oh no.
How evolution points to God's existence. Does evolution prove or disprove God? A critical analysis from a Christian perspective. Does evolution disprove God, or does it actually provide more evidence for his existence? In this in-depth video, we critically examine the evolutionary process from a Christian apologetic perspective. We explore the flaws, improbabilities, and scientific gaps in evolutionary theory, showing how these ultimately confirm the necessity of an intelligent designer, God. This video will cover the limits of Darwinian evolution and the failure of macroevolution, irreducible complexity and the problem of gradualism, the fine-tuning of biological systems and the impossibility of random assembly, the origin of life and why naturalism fails to explain it, the information enigma, DNA as a digital code and its theological implications, how evolution, rather than disproving God, aligns with the Christian worldview. Make sure to subscribe for more deep, faith-based scientific discussions. Introduction. Does the process of evolution disprove God? Or does it, in fact, provide even more compelling evidence for his existence? For decades, mainstream science has promoted the idea that evolution explains everything, that through random mutations and natural selection, life emerged from simple molecules and gradually evolved into the vast complexity we see today. We are told that no intelligence was involved, that everything happened by pure chance, and that the universe, life, and even human consciousness can be explained by undirected natural processes. But is that really the case? Can blind, unguided forces account for the immense precision, order, and complexity in biology? A closer look at evolutionary processes reveals significant scientific problems that often go unaddressed. Modern discoveries in genetics, microbiology, and quantum biology have exposed flaws in classical evolutionary explanations, revealing gaps that natural selection and random mutation alone cannot bridge. This video will critically examine evolutionary processes through a Christian apologetic lens, breaking down the key problems with Darwinian evolution and exploring how the very mechanisms of life point directly to an intelligent designer, God himself. By the end of this video, you will see how the intricate complexity of life, the fine-tuning of biological systems, and the presence of vast amounts of coded information in DNA all demand the existence of a creator. Evolution does not remove God, it confirms the necessity of his existence. The limits of Darwinian evolution. Charles Darwin himself understood that his theory had limitations. He acknowledged that if any biological structure was found that could not be gradually formed through minor modifications, his theory would collapse. Today, we know that such structures exist in abundance. One of the most fundamental problems with Darwinian evolution is the limit of mutations. The entire evolutionary model is based on random mutations and natural selection, but what happens when we analyze these mechanisms scientifically? Mutation limitations. Studies on genetic mutations show that the vast majority of mutations are harmful or neutral, with only a small fraction being beneficial. Even beneficial mutations do not add new functional genetic information in a way that transforms one species into another. Laboratory studies on fruit flies, which have short life cycles, allowing for the observation of thousands of generations, have shown that mutations often lead to deformities, sterility, or disease, rather than evolutionary advancement. The fossil record problem. Darwin predicted that millions of transitional fossils should exist if evolution were true. Instead, what we find is that species appear suddenly and fully formed in the fossil record, without clear transitional forms. The Cambrian explosion, a sudden burst of life in the fossil record, directly contradicts the gradual process predicted by Darwinism. Rather than a slow, step-by-step evolutionary process, the evidence points to a sudden, designed appearance of life, which is exactly what we would expect if a creator was involved. Irreducible complexity and the problem of gradualism. The concept of irreducible complexity, pioneered by biochemist Michael Behe, presents a devastating challenge to Darwinian evolution. Take the bacterial flagellum, a microscopic, self-propelling motor that enables bacteria to move. This tiny structure is made up of over 40 interdependent protein parts, each of which must be present and functional for the entire system to work. If just one part is missing or even slightly modified, the motor does not function at all. This presents a huge problem for evolutionary gradualism. If natural selection works by preserving useful traits, how could a system that only functions when fully assembled have evolved step by step? Evolution has no foresight, it cannot plan for future usefulness. Other examples of irreducible complexity include the human eye, with its precisely aligned cornea, retina, and optic nerve. The blood clotting cascade, which must function perfectly or the organism will either bleed to death or die from excessive clotting. The human immune system, which requires multiple interdependent components to fight off infection. These biological systems do not function unless they are complete, making gradual evolution an impossibility. Design requires a designer. The fine-tuning of biological systems and the problem of randomness. If evolution were a blind, unguided process, we would expect to see randomness and imperfection in biological systems. Instead, what we find is precision, fine-tuning, and engineering that far exceeds human capability. Example 1. The human cell, a city of complexity. The human body is made up of over 37 trillion cells, and each cell is more complex than any factory ever built by mankind. Inside a single cell, we find DNA storage and replication systems that function like an advanced computer program. Molecular machines such as ribosomes, which translate genetic instructions into proteins. Cellular highways, the cytoskeleton, that transport materials with molecular motors like kinesin and dynein, which are literal walking machines moving cargo along the cell's infrastructure. Each of these structures must function in perfect harmony for life to exist. If a single element fails or is missing, the entire system collapses. Example 2. The human DNA code, a divine blueprint. DNA is often called the language of life, and for a good reason. Each strand of DNA contains a highly organized, four-letter digital code A, T, C, G that instructs the body on how to build proteins, cells, and tissues. To put this into perspective, a single human DNA strand contains more information than 100 gigabytes of digital data. The total information in a human genome is equivalent to over 3 billion letters, enough to fill 600,000 pages of text. This code is not random, it follows precise grammatical rules, syntax, and structure, just like a written language or a computer program. Here's the problem for evolution. Random mutations and natural selection cannot generate new functional information in DNA. Information is always the product of an intelligent mind, whether it's a book, a software program, or a DNA sequence. Just as a book requires an author, the intricate coding of DNA requires a creator. Evolutionary mechanisms cannot explain how a fully functional digital information system appeared out of nothing. This is yet another reason why evolution, rather than disproving God, points directly to Him. The origin of life, a major obstacle for naturalistic evolution. Even if we assume that evolution could explain how life diversified, it still cannot explain how life began in the first place. This is known as the origin of life problem, and it is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in science. The Miller-Urey experiment, a failed attempt to create life. In 1953, scientists Stanley Miller and Harold Urey attempted to simulate early Earth conditions to see if life could arise spontaneously. They created a mixture of gases methane, ammonia, hydrogen, and water vapor and exposed it to electric sparks. The result? The experiment produced some amino acids, which are basic building blocks of life. However, it failed to produce functional proteins, RNA, or DNA, which are all necessary for life. Even more problematic, modern research shows that early Earth did not have the conditions used in the experiment, making its relevance questionable. The big problems with naturalistic origin of life theories. The law of biogenesis, life only comes from life. We have never observed life arising from non-life in any experiment. The chirality problem, proteins and DNA require left-handed amino acids and right-handed sugars. Random chemical reactions would produce both types, making life impossible. The information problem, even the simplest bacteria require over 300 essential genes with precise coding. Where did this highly organized information come from? The only logical conclusion is that life did not originate by accident. It was designed by an intelligent creator. How evolution aligns with the Christian worldview. Many people assume that science and faith are in conflict, but this is a false dichotomy. In reality, the order, precision, and complexity of life align perfectly with the Christian worldview. Biblical support for intelligent design. Psalm 139:14, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made, your works are wonderful, I know that full well. Romans 1:20, for since the creation of the world God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. John 1:3, through him all things were made, without him nothing was made that has been made. Scientific discoveries confirming a creator. The fine-tuning of the universe for life. The mathematical precision in physics and biology. The discovery that DNA is a fully functional information system, something only intelligence can produce. Many of the greatest scientists in history, including Isaac Newton, Louis Pasteur, and Francis Bacon, were Christians who saw their scientific discoveries as evidence of God's design. Far from disproving God, science confirms the necessity of a creator. Conclusions: the necessity of God as the creator. What we have explored today reveals a crucial truth. Life is not the product of random chance. Biological systems show design, fine-tuning, and irreducible complexity. The Bible's description of creation aligns with modern discoveries. The more we learn about biology, physics, and the universe, the clearer it becomes. Evolution does not disprove God, it points to Him. If you found this discussion helpful, make sure to like this video to support our work. Subscribe for more deep discussions on science and faith. Share this video to spread the truth about God's design. See you in the next video. God bless. Let me know your ideas in the comments.